Suffering is an indelible thread woven into the fabric of human existence, a universal experience that shapes the contours of our lives. As Friedrich Nietzsche declared in Beyond Good and Evil, the discipline of suffering, of great suffering. Do you not know that only this discipline has created all enhancements of man so far? This bold statement challenges the instinctive human tendency to view suffering as an affliction to be avoided at all costs. Instead, Nietzsche posits suffering as a crucible for human growth and elevation. Similarly, the Italian poet and philosopher Giacomo Leopardi observed, "Men are wretched by necessity and determined to believe themselves wretched by accident." Thoughts highlighting the inevitability of suffering and humanity's struggle to accept it as an intrinsic part of life. Given that suffering is unavoidable, the pivotal question becomes not whether we will suffer, but how we will suffer. Will we allow suffering to plunge us into despair, eroding our spirit? Or will we harness its potential to ascend to greater heights of wisdom, resilience, and fulfillment? This article delves deeply into the latent value of suffering, arguing that it is not merely an obstacle, but a profound catalyst for personal transformation. Drawing on the insights of Nietzsche, Hermann Hesse, Iain McGilchrist, and others, we explore how suffering fosters strength, empathy, realism, and an enhanced capacity for joy, while examining why modern civilization's comforts often lead us to squander its transformative power. At first glance, suffering appears as an adversary, a dark force associated with misfortune, illness, loss, rejection, or failure. Its emotional weight, marked by pain, grief, and often a profound sense of isolation, can feel antithetical to a flourishing life. Yet, Hermann Hesse offers a radical reframing in Zarathustra's Return. All good in a man for which he is praised or loved is merely good suffering, the right kind, the living kind of suffering, a suffering to the full. From suffering springs strength, from suffering springs health. This perspective transforms suffering from a destructive force into a vital source of human development, suggesting that the qualities we admire in others, resilience, wisdom, compassion, are often forged in the fires of adversity. Iain McGilchrist, in his magnum opus The Matter with Things, provides a vivid analogy to illustrate this principle. He recounts the Biosphere 2 project of the late 1980s, an ambitious experiment to create a self-contained ecological system to explore the feasibility of sustaining life in extraterrestrial environments. Within this controlled, artificial setting, scientists observed a curious phenomenon. Trees consistently failed to reach maturity, toppling over before they could grow tall. The cause, discovered later, was the absence of wind. Without the stress of wind, trees did not develop stress wood, the dense, resilient tissue that forms in response to environmental pressures and gives them structural integrity. Nor did their roots grow deep and robust enough to anchor them against external forces. McGilchrist writes, "Exposure to winds causes the growth of stress wood, which is the core of the tree's strength and integrity. Winds also cause the root system to strengthen, the matter with things." This botanical insight mirrors the human condition. Just as trees require the resistance of wind to grow strong, humans need the adversities of life, those that bring suffering, to develop resilience, character, and depth. Nietzsche anticipated this analogy long before the Biosphere 2 experiment. In The Gay Science, he wrote, "Examine the lives of the best and most fruitful people, and ask yourself whether a tree that is supposed to grow to a proud height can dispense with bad weather and storms, whether misfortune and eternal resistance do not belong among the favorable conditions without which any great growth, even of virtue, is scarcely possible." For Nietzsche, the hardships that accompany suffering, whether personal failures, physical ailments, or emotional turmoil, are not mere obstacles but essential conditions for greatness. Without the bad weather of life, individuals remain vulnerable and frail, like the trees in Biosphere 2, unable to withstand the inevitable storms of existence. The struggles we endure, though painful, cultivate virtues such as courage, perseverance, and humility, shaping us into more robust and capable beings. This perspective challenges the modern inclination to shield ourselves and others from hardship. In our efforts to create a life free of pain, we risk stunting our growth, much like the trees in a windless environment. Suffering, when embraced as a necessary part of development, becomes a sculptor, chiseling away at our weaknesses to reveal the strength beneath. It is through the trials of life that we learn to stand taller, rooted more deeply in our sense of self and purpose. Beyond its role as a byproduct of growth-inducing hardships, suffering possesses intrinsic value that enriches the human experience in profound and multifaceted ways. Nietzsche described suffering as the ultimate liberator of the mind, suggesting that it serves as a teacher, unveiling truths that might otherwise remain hidden, the gay science. Suffering forces us to confront our limitations, errors, and vulnerabilities, often acting as a catalyst for self-reflection and change. The pain of failure, for instance, can illuminate flawed approaches, misguided priorities, or unrealistic expectations, guiding us toward wiser paths. A financial setback might reveal the folly of reckless spending, while a broken relationship might expose patterns of behavior that need correction. In this sense, suffering acts as a mirror, reflecting our inner selves with unflinching clarity and compelling us to evolve. Moreover, suffering is a cornerstone of empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Without personal experience of hardship, our capacity to connect with those in pain is limited, remaining theoretical rather than visceral. As McGilchrist notes, suffering enables us to know what others are going through in times of hardship, the matter with things. This shared experience of suffering fosters deeper human connections, bridging the gap between individuals and cultivating a sense of communal solidarity. Empathy, born from our own encounters with pain, not only strengthens interpersonal relationships, but also nurtures a moral sensitivity that enhances our humanity. It is through suffering that we learn to offer compassion, to listen with genuine understanding, and to stand beside others in their moments of need. Another intrinsic benefit of suffering, particularly in the form of depression, is its association with greater realism. McGilchrist cites research demonstrating that depression has repeatedly been shown to be associated with greater realism, provided the depression is not too severe. The evidence is that this is not because insight makes you depressed, but because, up to a point, being depressed gives you insight. The matter with things. Individuals experiencing moderate depression often exhibit a heightened awareness of their circumstances, including their role in shaping outcomes. This clarity, though painful, allows for more informed decisions and a deeper understanding of reality, contrasting with the often optimistic but unrealistic perspectives of those unacquainted with suffering. For example, a person who has faced repeated setbacks may develop a more grounded view of their capabilities and the world's challenges, enabling them to navigate life with greater pragmatism and foresight. Perhaps the most paradoxical yet profound value of suffering lies in its ability to enhance our capacity for joy. Nietzsche captures this idea vividly in The Gay Science. How little you know of human happiness, you comfortable and benevolent people, for happiness and unhappiness are sisters and evil twins that either grow up together or, as in your case, remain small together. Happiness and suffering exist as opposites within a dipole, each defining and amplifying the other. McGilchrist elaborates, opposites are not to be resolved by eliminating the one we happen to dislike, any more than lopping off the south end of a bar magnet gets rid of the South Pole. It just shortens the magnet. The matter with things. To know profound joy, one must also know profound suffering. The depth of one's capacity for pain directly correlates with the height of one's potential for happiness. A life insulated from suffering may be comfortable, but it risks remaining shallow, unable to access the full spectrum of human experience. Those who have endured great suffering often report a heightened appreciation for life's simple pleasures. A sunrise, a kind word, a moment of connection, because their pain has expanded their capacity to feel joy. Despite these profound benefits, suffering frequently leads to negative outcomes such as chronic depression, resentment, pessimism, or nihilism. Why does suffering, which holds such potential for growth and enrichment, so often result in despair? The answer lies in the conditions of modern civilization, which have rendered us ill-equipped to face suffering constructively. Nietzsche observed that the comforts of modern life have softened our resilience, noting in The Gay Science, "The refinement and alleviation of existence make even the inevitable mosquito bites of the soul and body seem much too bloody and malignant. In an era where survival needs are easily met, pleasure is abundant, and sickness and death are concealed in hospitals and morgues, we are insulated from the raw suffering that defined earlier human existence. This insulation has heightened our sensitivity to pain, making even minor discomforts feel unbearable." Nietzsche further remarked, "Pain did not hurt as much then as it does now. Pain is now hated much more than was the case for earlier humans. One speaks much worse of it, on the genealogy of morality." This hypersensitivity transforms suffering into an existential affront, leading many to view it as an evil to be eradicated rather than a challenge to be embraced. As a result, modern individuals often seek to escape suffering through distractions such as drugs, alcohol, or the endless allure of digital entertainment. Social media, streaming platforms, and video games offer temporary reprieves from pain, while psychotropic medications provide a chemical shield against emotional turmoil. However, Nietzsche warns against this avoidance. If you are unwilling to endure your own suffering even for an hour, and continually forestall all possible misfortune, if you regard suffering and pain generally as evil, as detestable, as deserving of annihilation, and as blots on existence, well, you have then, in your heart, the religion of smug ease, the gay science. By fleeing from suffering, we forfeit its transformative potential. The value of suffering is not automatic. It requires courage, reflection, and a willingness to engage with it directly. Only through enduring and learning from our pain can we extract its lessons and benefits, whether they be greater self-awareness, empathy, or resilience. This modern aversion to suffering is not merely a personal failing but a cultural phenomenon. The ethos of instant gratification and comfort has permeated our society, fostering a belief that happiness is the default state and suffering an aberration. This mindset leaves us unprepared when suffering inevitably arises, leading to a cycle of avoidance and despair rather than growth and transformation. To reclaim the value of suffering, we must cultivate a cultural and personal shift, viewing it not as an enemy but as a teacher and a catalyst for becoming. Suffering's true power lies in its ability to propel us forward, creating a dynamic tension that drives personal growth and transformation. McGilchrist invokes the metaphor of a bow and arrow. It is the tension between the warring ends of the bow that gives the arrow the power to fly, as it is the tension in the strings of the lyre that gives rise to melody. The matter with things. Suffering, as one pole of human experience, creates a tension with its opposite, joy, that impels us toward development. This tension is not meant to trap us in perpetual pain, but to serve as a catalyst for movement and transformation. Once we have learned from our suffering, lingering in it unnecessarily becomes pathological, wreaking havoc on both body and mind. Chronic suffering, left unaddressed, can lead to physical ailments, mental exhaustion, and a diminished capacity for life. Instead, suffering should be a temporary state, a teacher that guides us toward greater strength, wisdom, and vitality. Nietzsche's own life exemplifies this transformative potential, particularly in the face of great suffering. He endured profound personal and physical hardships, including chronic illness, professional rejection, and social isolation. In a letter, he described his torment. Every 2 or 3 weeks, I spend about 36 hours in bed. In real torment, this winter is the worst there has been. It is such a strain getting through the day that, by evening, there is no pleasure left in life, and I really am surprised how difficult living is. It does not seem to be worth it, all this torment. The selected letters of Friedrich Nietzsche. Yet, despite this anguish, Nietzsche attributed his philosophical insights and personal growth to his suffering. He wrote, "At every age of my life, suffering, monstrous suffering, was my lot." Quoted in Struggle with the Demon. Yet it was this very suffering that allowed him to reach heights of the soul from which even tragedy ceased to look tragic. The gay science. Nietzsche's suffering was not a barrier but a bridge to his philosophical achievements, enabling him to craft ideas that continue to resonate across centuries. Nietzsche's experience illustrates that even the most intense suffering, whether from bereavement, chronic illness, personal ruin, or existential despair, holds transformative potential. He described this process vividly. To speak mystically, the path to one's own heaven always leads through the voluptuousness of one's own hell. The gay science. Through enduring his pain with courage and reflection, Nietzsche emerged with a deeper character, greater wisdom, and a heightened appreciation for life's joys. His journey serves as a testament to the possibility of transcending suffering, emerging not only intact, but enriched with a renewed sense of purpose and vitality. The insights of Nietzsche, Hesse, and McGilchrist converge on a central truth. Suffering is not merely an obstacle to be overcome, but a fundamental aspect of what it means to be human. It is through suffering that we grow, learn, empathize, and come to appreciate the full depth of joy. As Nietzsche wrote, "From such abysses of suffering, one returns newborn, having shed one's skin, with a more delicate taste for joy, with a tenderer tongue for all good things, with merrier senses, more childlike, and yet 100 times subtler than one has ever been before." The gay science. This rebirth is not guaranteed, however. It requires a willingness to face suffering head-on, to learn from it, and to allow it to shape us without letting it define us. The modern aversion to suffering, driven by the comforts of civilization, poses a significant challenge to this process. By shielding ourselves from pain, we risk stunting our growth and diminishing our capacity for a full, vibrant life. The solution is not to seek out suffering unnecessarily, but to cultivate a mindset that views it as a teacher and a catalyst rather than an enemy. This shift in perspective allows us to harness suffering's potential to elevate us, much like the wind strengthens a tree or the tension of a bow propels an arrow. It requires courage to sit with our pain, to listen to its lessons, and to move forward with the wisdom it imparts. Furthermore, suffering connects us to the broader human experience, reminding us of our shared vulnerability and resilience. It is a universal language that transcends cultural and temporal boundaries, uniting us in our capacity to endure and grow. By embracing suffering as an integral part of the human condition, we open ourselves to a richer, more meaningful existence. One where the depths of pain give rise to the heights of joy, and where the struggles we face become the foundation for our greatest strengths. Suffering, though painful and often isolating, is not an aberration, but a cornerstone of human development. As Nietzsche, Hesse, and McGilchrist illustrate, it is through suffering that we forge strength, gain wisdom, develop empathy, and unlock the capacity for profound joy. The modern world, with its myriad comforts and distractions, has made us ill-prepared to face suffering, leading many to flee from it rather than engage with its transformative potential. Yet, as Nietzsche's life demonstrates, even the greatest suffering can be a path to personal greatness when met with courage and reflection. By embracing suffering as an integral part of the human experience, we open ourselves to a richer, more meaningful existence, one where the depths of pain give rise to the heights of joy, and where the trials of life become the crucible for our becoming.